Ohio for another daily vlog leading up to CincyCon coming up this weekend, Friday. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little the deep between. I'm going to put a link somewhere through this video. Don Serratos did some painting, did a painting commission for me. And he does the tech shaman from the Forsaken Tribes faction. Did a really great job. Absolutely killed it. It's been really cool to work with him and see him paint models that I designed. I'm not the sculptor, so but I do design all these figures. Sketching and drawing and kind of putting together the briefs, illustrations, what have you, for the sculptors. So it's really cool to see something that started as a thought, moved to a piece of paper, and then was a digital thing, now it's made its way halfway around the world, or really the other side of the world, and been painted by somebody that I really enjoy. And I wasn't sure what to talk about for today. Printed some more vase, just trying to get inventory up for CincyCon. I have no idea what to expect. I don't want to run out of models. Be very willing to take orders if such a thing happened, but I want to make sure that I have plenty enough to get me through the 3 days. So that's really been it on the hobby side. I was hoping to do some painting today, but spent a little bit of time with the family and did play a little bit of video games, which I haven't been doing as much lately. Played some Wasteland 3, so that was kind of nice. But I decided to talk about what is Grimdark to you, right? And I'm not going to say what is Grimdark, because while there's kind of a codified sort of definition for it, we've all been introduced to it at different times, and it's different things, right? And Don, making these content, making the videos for the painting of the tech shaman, there was some comments in one of them where people were kind of like, when it gets to Grimdark, or wish people knew what Grimdark was. And it kind of makes me laugh, because while I wasn't actively playing back when 2nd edition came out, and early Rogue Trader and such, I've been around since 3rd edition of Warhammer 40k. So pretty early on, when Grimdark was just a tagline and a moniker, and it really wasn't this idea or this genre that it's become, like cyberpunk or steampunk, or different kind of genres that rear their way up. And I can remember, aging myself a bit, but I can remember, because I had been playing for a few years and was watching my older siblings play for some years before that, when the tab came out, and what a bit of a shakeup that was for a lot of people. And I can remember really being put off by them, even with not being nearly as invested into the idea of Grimdark and Warhammer 40k. And so as I was thinking about these comments today, I thought to myself, well, there's different sides of it, right? So there is an absolutely an entire Grimdark visual aesthetic, especially when you're talking about miniature painting. Like, there's a whole Grimdark painting style. But then there's also the tone or the themes of Grimdark, just kind of like this unbearable malaise and misery, and there not really being any hope, and people or entities, institutions, they move on, because what else are you going to do, right? And there's not really any kind of meaningful way or move forward. There's just, there's, as the saying went, there's no hope, there's no respite, right? Um, and that's something very different than just the visual language or aesthetics, right? And again, I was really kind of cutting my teeth on the hobby back when those things were very much together, with Games Workshop, uh, before they kind of split and went different ways. I would argue that there are some parts of modern 40K that are just as grimdark as ever, and there are other parts of it that are completely unrecognizable from what I was introduced to, and even further from being recognizable from what kind of more modern grimdark has become, like with Trench Crusade. And you know, for me, I always kind of think of it, particularly with this genre, a lot like horror, where uh, horror has many genres and kind of different faces, and what one would consider, say like would be horror of one kind or another. You can have the gratuitousness, or you can just have the tone, right? So there are things that are absolutely terrifying, movies that are terrifying, that have very little, visual shock factor, and others that work the other way. And that's fine, right? And that as a genre, as a form of media, it has kind of subdivided itself. And I think that we're at a point with Grimdark where it's much the same, uh, because I don't think that just because you don't douse your minis in shades of brown with some texture and put some hair or something on it, that means it's not grimdark. Um, but I recognize that has become a whole thing in and of itself. And for a lot of people, if you were introduced to quote unquote grimdark, and that's what you were shown or what you saw, when you see things different, then you'd kind of have that reaction of like, well, this isn't, this ain't right. But I think it's kind of disingenuous to say that one thing or another isn't. Just like other forms, so cyberpunk, the kind of the pinnacle of that genre, absolutely, is probably things like, Blade Runner. Is probably the one all time great, right? But it can be a very varied genre, right? Like I think of Edge Runners and that anime recently, and it has all of the same themes, but the tone is very different. It's brighter, it's lighthearted, and it has themes of like, the hopefulness, just like in Blade Runner, of like escaping the perpetual machine and the oppression of technology and corporations and things like that. But they're done very differently, and you don't see the same divide about that. Um, so yeah, kind of just a bit of a rant today, because that was just something that kind of made me laugh and struck me as odd, because again, I have no idea what other people from wherever are imagining or seeing. But ironically, the name itself for Grimdark, Ohio, came because originally this was going to be a channel for Grimdark Future, for one page rules, which I would kind of argue isn't a very grimdark setting, at least not the lore that one page rules has produced, right? Um, but again, it's what is what is grimdark to you, right? And at least for Grimdark, Ohio, and the Deep Between, uh, in terms of tone, it is just kind of the unbearable, even though there's this multi-dimensional facet to this universe, it's just as bleak everywhere. Um, one e- example of, what would be our equivalent of our solar system, right? Might be subdivided up between a series of mega corporations, and in another one, it might be wholly under the boot of a solar empire, and another just warring nations, right? But I think that the underlying theme there is grimdark, right? There's not a lot of hope for resolution of the problems, largely because the questions that are driving those problems are larger than the answers or the solution to them. There's not really any kind of meaningful peace possible in these universes. So that's what it's going to be from here. Visually, there's not a grimdark in terms of gothic, right? So that's another thing. As Warhammer isn't just grimdark, but it is also very gothic, especially in its early inception. So a lot of people came to know grimdark as in just gothic, and kind of confused the two together. Um, there's not as much gothic to this, right? There's not, grand spired cathedrals. There is, skull motifs, and, there are, kind of like the bays themselves, right? Like, got a couple of them painted over here. They have, this kind of undead knight looking vibe to them, or, the interacts, or these, kind of these hideous creatures. But that's not the whole of it. That's a facet of it. In terms of visual representation, uh, there is a lot of a little more grounded sci-fi and almost kind of cyberpunk elements in terms of the look and feel of certain things. I just really wanted to create a universe, or an IP, where players could do what they want. After all, one of the things that I'm really not the best about is driving home that this is a model agnostic system. I want people to play the game I'm designing. I don't care what models they use, as long as they're enjoying a fast, uh, you know, tactical game with other players, and having fun doing it, and embracing the hobby, pushing themselves as painters, and coming up with cool ideas and ways to kit bash things. That's what I loved about the hobby. It's what I still love about the hobby. And just like the point of this rant, what is Grimdark to you? Uh, this business, this whole venture is based on what is the hobby to me. And to me, um, the hobby is creativity and camaraderie. It's finding people that you enjoy, whether you already had existing friends or you're making new friends by painting, building, sharing, and playing, and to some degree even competing sometimes with one another. Um, yeah, and it's kind of the end of that rant. Um, I don't know why. It's maybe not so much that it bothered me, but it just struck me as, I don't know what the right word is, but almost kind of like elitist or gatekeepy, to see something like that. But yeah, it's the couple days left. I'm gonna have to try to figure out. I'll probably do a video or two of just like showing off all of the prep, and what all I'm bringing. I'll be bringing this. I also have like a massive roll-up banner um, of the cover for the game. And yeah, the display case and how much models and terrain and everything, and figuring out how I'm going to pack it and haul it every day. Because while CincyCon isn't far from me, it is a good half-hour drive, so I'm going to have to go back and forth every day. So coming up to the final stretch, and I think I will wrap up these vlog series kind of through CincyCon. I'll probably do like some from my phone updates while I'm there, and just kind of compile those into a video or two over the weekend. And I'll probably take a break from the daily thing and start thinking about maybe doing longer form, better edited content. Do some painting stuff and maybe do some terrain builds and do some better lore and things like that. But I'm going to continue to do the YouTube thing, pushing 250 subscribers, which, for only a couple months, being a small channel, that's pretty big for me. I'm pretty excited about that. Instagram's knocking on 500 followers. So just really happy to see growth and interest. And yeah, till tomorrow.